with Bill Plass, who's the XO for the 501st Legion. 501st Legion is a great little Star Wars reenactment group. They do a lot of work with charity, and the group here in New Orleans and in Louisiana is really strong. Give us a quick thumbnail on what all's happening at Comic-Con and what's up with the 501st these days.
All right, well, Bats Alpha Garrison, like you said, we're the Louisiana chapter of the 501st Worldwide Star Wars Group. Today we're raising money for a little boy with special needs. He was born with a condition where the bones in his skeleton, especially his skull, didn't fuse together properly. His family needs a special needs van for mobility with a higher roof. It's kind of a sort of a nice problem to have is he's grown so much he needs an extra van. So if you're here at NOLA Comic-Con, come on down, find the 501st, find our booth, look for Blaster Trooper for a donation of your choice. You get to pick up a Nerf gun and shoot at Vader, Stormtroopers, any other characters we got handy.
Yeah, a quick glimpse, as you may have seen from our footage earlier, as the bad guys of the Star Wars universe line up to get taken down by the ravening crowds of New Orleans Comic-Con.
Yep.
Bill, thanks a lot for taking a minute to speak with us today.
Thank you.
At every Comic-Con, we have to stop and check in with one of my favorite organizations, a powerhouse for freedom of speech, particularly in the graphic arena, the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. And there's some really interesting library-oriented stuff going on. So, why don't we get you to introduce yourself to the crowd if they don't remember you from last year.
Hey folks, I'm Charles Brownstein. I'm the Executive Director of Comic Book Legal Defense Funds.
And so tell me, since we saw you last year at Comic-Con, what sort of projects have we got, as we fight the battle for free speech across the nation? What have you guys been spearheading recently?
The fund is really stepping up our education game, and in the last year we've created some incredible tools for librarians, for parents, for teachers that are being used to go out there and raise awareness of the great things that comics can do. Mm-hmm. In fact, it looks like you're holding one of them now.
Yeah, let's see if we can get this without any reflection on it. Here we go, Raising a Reader, how comics and graphic novels can help your kids love to read. And for everybody who's sick of watching their kids typing in text speak, this is probably a good one to pay attention to. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's a really cool resource created by education professor Merrill Jaffe out of Johns Hopkins, and it's illustrated by some of the best illustrators in kids comics today. Raina Telgemeier did the cover here, but what's so cool about it is that it goes into detail for the skeptics about what graphic novels offer kids. Mm-hmm. You and I take for granted that we understand how the page works, but it breaks it down for you. Here's how the panels behave, and it has a lot of really great activities about things you can do in groups, in classrooms, to use comics and graphic novels. And the reason that this helps fight censorship is because it raises understanding of the value of comics. So much of the challenges against comics, and if you go to CBLDF.org every single day, you'll see that someone's trying to ban a comic somewhere. So many of the challenges come from this old stigma that comics are low-value speech. Mm-hmm. And this goes into, well, no, here's exactly the value of the medium. So it's a great tool.
Outstanding. And anything that helps fight the perception that comics are a lowbrow art medium is a good thing, because well, that is sometimes the case, and sometimes intentionally. Ever since the battles against the comic code in the 80s, when we had Swamp Thing come out and such, this has been ongoing improvement. Any particularly reprehensible abrogations of free speech recently? I know there was one I believe I saw in your newsletter about death threats towards an artist or something?
Well, there was the most reprehensible piece in the last 12 months was the Chicago Public Schools attempted to ban the book Persepolis for use in the classrooms. And we jumped on that story immediately and were able to get the book partially restored. But it shows just how one person can make a judgment about a piece of work, and then that can go out and create this wildfire moral panic that we got to take it away. In that case, the students rose up and said, no, you can't take this thing away from us. But we saw more and more stories coming out throughout the course of the year about people trying to ban and censor comics. And again, at CBLDF.org every day our news blog covers new pieces as they occur.
Yeah, I enjoin our viewers to keep in mind one thing. As Jello Biafra of the Dead Kennedys said back around the time of the trials in Congress about music labeling, these battles are often started by one cranky person who writes in, and the reason that they win is because people don't show up. Show up, because with comics, just like music, which revolution do you really think has more fans? People who like the art or people who don't?
You got it.
Outstanding. Thank you for joining us again this year. This is Loki at Humid City. We'll be back with more coverage shortly.
Thanks, Loki.